I'm involved in a lot more of the decision-making process. It's different when you're specifically focused on one position group, which I enjoy. I came into this league really learning this process. This is what I did for 4 years in Indianapolis and have continued to do in Cincinnati. So it's something that I enjoy, and I like the fact that I'm in on all the offensive position meetings now and all those discussions. So it's good.
What has the past month or so been like getting settled? Obviously, you guys solidified the staff, all of those things.
Yeah, that was a big part of it, is just getting that part solidified. And, we got a lot of good people in the building. We added good people to our staff and just kind of figure out, how we all work together. That'll be an ongoing process. We spent a lot of time really self-assessing, the year. What did we do well? Where do we need to improve? Looked across the league, did some pretty extensive league studies, kind of assigned the staff, different responsibilities as far as that goes, and really kind of spent the last 2 to 3 weeks doing that as we started to lead into the evaluation process. So it's been busy. I think we've done a good job of that stuff, and we'll continue with that moving forward in the offseason.
How do you see that Jason's role? Is that a game planning thing? Is it a quality control thing? Is it a game day thing?
Justin?
I'm sorry, Justin.
Yes. Yeah.
How do you
Justin Riscotti. Yeah. So Justin's going to be a tremendous asset. He's got a really unique background. He's a successful college quarterback. He's coached the quarterback position. He's coached the receiver position. He's been a coordinator in college. He's been in the NFL for a handful of years. He's been in the offensive line room for 4 years. He's been in the quarterback room for a year. So I think he's got a great kind of global offensive perspective that will be an asset to me, as I take on those duties of the day-to-day construction of the game plan and even through the offseason and the OTAs and training camp, and really just kind of be there for me as somebody to run ideas by, and he'll have specific things he's responsible for. And so I think he's going to touch a lot of pieces of what we do, and we're really happy to have him.
What were some of the things that stood out as far as the positives when you did the self-evaluation?
Sure. You look at both phases, right? You look at the run game, you look at the pass game. Run game first. We have been a very efficient rushing offense. When you look at some of the context-dependent metrics, the EPA, efficiency, chunk percentage, things like that, there's good stuff there, and then you break it down by, specific run scheme. Some things we were good at, others we weren't. And so those are the kind of the findings that allow you to forge the path forward. Kind of common themes, obviously we'd love to be more explosive, even so we kind of divided up efficiency. Chunk is kind of intermediate category, and then explosive runs. If we can turn some of those efficient runs into chunk runs, and that's a team-wide thing. That's every position on the field. It's the line maybe straining to finish a little bit. It's the back, making somebody miss at the second level. It's the quarterback making sure we're in the right checks. It's the receivers finishing. I think we did a really good job of looking at that, and there's improvables at all those position groups that can help us get better in that area. In the pass game as well, I think we have explosive players. We need to create more explosive plays, and that comes through scheme, that comes through execution, that comes through designing it week in and week out to make sure that we're exploiting all those opportunities that we get from a game-to-game basis.
How would you assess your abilities, Dan, situationally, kind of along those same lines, but third down and short, low red zone?
Sure. Third down was kind of unique. We were excellent in a couple components of third down, 3rd and 2 to 3, 3rd in kind of the 7 to 10 range. We weren't very good at all in 3rd and 4 to 6, 3rd and long. So you kind of look at that and you try to discover what are those reasons. Some of that is dependent on the specific opponent that you may be against when you end up in those situations. You don't know going into you got your whole plan. You may have 5 3rd and 6s in one game, and then the next game you may not have another one for 3 weeks. So that's a little bit. You try not to get too lost in the weeds there, but that's a down there. Obviously, we have to be great at. We talk about that as being good on third down gets you more bites at the apple. We have really explosive players. You have to be able to extend drives so that you can call more base down plays, so that you can call more plays that allow you to create explosive opportunities down the field and hand the ball off more to our explosive backs.
What do you define as explosive plays? I know that y'all
It depends on, in the run game, we usually say 12 plus. Depending on the situation we're looking at in the passing game, it could be anywhere from 15 plus to 20 plus, based on what we're studying in that given moment.
A couple of years ago, you guys were really good, I think 2021, 2022, in long plays, 10 to 15 drive plays. Is that an area of focus for you to maybe get back to that this year?
Saying long plays or long drives? Long drives. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you go into every week and you study the opponent and you see, okay, what kind of game is this? Is this going to be a 7-drive game based on how they play offense, based on how they play defense? Is this going to be a 10 to 11 drive game? And obviously you don't know. But being able to put together those long drives and sustain success down the field, it benefits everyone. Sure, you love to have the quick strike touchdowns as well. That needs to be a part of it. But when you're looking holistically, that's great for the defense, right? As you can maintain the football and move down the field that way. So that's third down, right? That's base downs, getting into manageable third downs. That's going first down, second down, first down. That's part of that. Turning 4-yard runs into 7-yard runs that allows you to kind of march down the field and play offense that way.
Did you see too many 3-and-outs early, especially early in the season last year?
I mean, sure. One is too many. Those are the. I know that's kind of a flippant response, but those 3-and-outs kill you. Those will put you in a hole faster than anything. That turnovers. So we always talk about getting the first down. Get the first down on the drive, establish the rhythm, and your scoring percentage is going to go way up. And as you do that drive after drive after drive, you're going to win a bunch of football games.
How would you assess the offensive line as a whole?
Sure. Listen, I think that we have an experienced group that plays well together, who have meshed now. Certainly the interior 3, having 2 full seasons together, adding Orlando last year. Jonah's a free agent now. Is there room to grow there? Absolutely, but you could say that about every single position group. We love the makeup of those guys. We love the character. We love the toughness. We love the want to. And it's our job as coaches to put them in the best positions so that we as an offense can have success. And I feel really good about that. I think, Frank's done a great job assessing last year, taking a look at, what do we do in the run game moving forward. We got the same thing on offense or on the pass game now. We got to decide, maybe what are some things protection-wise that we can do that give us more chances to create those explosive plays. But I think that the line as a whole played well. Can we get better? Absolutely. And I know those guys are working hard right now to do that.
You guys have really leaned into the bigger, more powerful offensive linemen. Is that, when you assess things, is that something that you still look at and say, I still think that is where we're at our best, or do you reevaluate that and maybe we should open ourselves up to a little smaller, more athletic types?
I think when you have an elite quarterback, which we have, first and foremost, you solidify the pocket. And how do you solidify the pocket? You solidify it with strong, tough interior 3 that are smart, that can pass off games, that can pick up pressure packages, and we have that. We've done that. And so if that's step 1, then you decide what do those guys do well in the other phases of the offense. And I believe that that's the intelligent way to go about constructing our roster based on the quarterback that we have. Does that mean that we can't squeeze more out in certain areas? No, we're going to try to squeeze everything we can. But I think you got to be careful not to just think that the grass is always greener. Oh, we got to get more athletic. Well, you get more athletic, and then you give up more push in the pocket. Well, we got to solidify the center of the pocket. Okay, so now you get a little less athletic. There's not a bunch of guys walking around that are great at everything. That's the reality that we're faced with. That's why we're here, trying to find those guys. Those guys get picked in the first round. And hopefully we have an opportunity to add some of those guys. But I feel good about, how we've built that unit and how we're going to be able to move forward with it.
How valuable? Go ahead.
What do you think when you come? I don't know how much deep you've looked at the tackles yet, but when you have a class like this where it's like, geez, there's like 8 of these massive dudes that everybody wants. It's like that's got to be refreshing to know because there's been a scarcity in the league of those.
Sure, yeah. I think I'm really now kind of just diving into that, and what I've seen so far is encouraging. I think there's going to be, at least a handful of guys at that position that are going to be good pros. I also know projecting success at that position. First of all, projecting success at any position. If you have the formula, give it to me, because I could give this job up and make a ton of money. But particularly that position, the physicality that comes with that, of lining up against, you look at our division, and the Cam Haywards of the world, the Myles Garretts, the T.J. Watts, they're not playing those guys. Even in the SEC, they're not playing those guys. So all that being said, is it a promising group? I believe so. And if we have an opportunity to have one of those guys, it'll be exciting.
Given the quarterback that you have, you mentioned the pocket and keeping the pocket solidified. Is interior offensive line even more valuable from that perspective? Everyone talks about the tackles.
Yeah.
But
I think it gets a little tricky there, like trying to gauge value. We're just looking to put together 5 really good football players, then some, and guys that can step in when needed. We were extremely healthy up there this year, and that's a testament to the way those guys prepare their bodies and how they work. And but it's a game of attrition, and so you got to be ready with guys 6, 7, and 8 too. So they're all valuable. I mean, it's the skill sets vary, but to me, there's really no one more important than another. They got to of any of the positions. That's the unit that has to exist as a group, more so than anybody else, because they all play off one another.
When you came in here in 16, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
When you came here in 16, you guys had come off a couple of failed tackles, not being able to make the transition from college to the pros. You've been here, I mean, it doesn't seem like very long, but in the way the college game has developed, it's a different game than it was when you came in here. Is it harder to project these college tackles than it was when you first got these?
I don't know how much harder. I think it's always hard. I think it's super critical to know the person. I mean, really, how is this guy wired? Like, what does football mean to this guy? And because that's going to tell you a lot about how hard he's going to work when it doesn't go well.
But what if he doesn't, like, he's not used to getting into his stance, or he's coming out?
Yeah, well, that's part of assessing what he's been asked to do, and then projecting that forward to what we're going to ask him to do. And it's obviously better if you see a guy doing things that we're going to ask him to do. Right. It becomes a greater risk when you're trying to just look at, okay, here's a handful of traits that this person has that may or may not translate to success with what we're going to ask him to do. Sure, you'd rather see him have done it. You know what I mean? And to your point, yeah, maybe there's probably a little bit less of that as we move forward. The college game's gotten a little bit more, unique that way. But there's a lot of pieces to that puzzle, and that's what we're trying to figure out this week. Go ahead, Kelsey.
What do you feel like is a fair, not assessment, but the tight end position for you guys is a little bit of a unique situation because of the 2 receivers you have. Like, most NFL teams don't have the luxury of having a number 1 receiver, so then you could say it might limit your tight end production, and even when you had Tyler Boyd too. So, I mean, obviously the franchise tag, everyone said yesterday the goal is for T to be here this year, but what do you feel like is a fair assessment of the way you guys utilize and need or want a tight end in your offense?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's always room for great players. So the idea that we wouldn't be interested in adding an elite skill set at that position, I don't agree with that. It is about fitting the pieces together, and there's only so many targets, right? And so when you do have 2 explosive outside threats, it's and the resources that have to go into those guys, that's where you start to play the game, that Duke always talks about, with the pie only being so big. But we can. I mean, I think you saw a little bit, like, with Tanner in the second half of the year, like we know how to funnel the ball to the tight end, and so I'm certainly not opposed to a talented player at that position. You need somebody to work the middle of the field, whether that's your slot receiver, whether that's your tight end, whether that's Jamar Chase, formationing him into the middle of the field, T. Higgins for that matter. You got to figure out the best way to do that. And as we see across the league, having a dynamic playmaking tight end can really change your offense. And so that's not something where it's like, oh, we're not interested in that. I mean, now you just got to decide what are you willing to forego to acquire that. But we'll figure out the best way to make it work for us.
Given that y'all run 11 primarily, though, how does that, having a tight end that's featured a lot, I think most of those teams don't run 11 as much as y'all do. Given how much y'all run 11, having a tight end who's leaned on that much, how does that maybe impact if you get a tight end that way? Do you maybe play more 12? I mean, how does that dynamic work given the way that philosophically y'all play the game?
I mean, we're going to be player centric. So, yeah, we've lined up in a lot of 11 personnel, but I think you'd be hard pressed to find over the course of the time that Zach's been here, a team that's got 3 better receivers than we've had. So put your 3 best receivers, put your best players on the field. That doesn't mean that if we don't, if we were to acquire a talented tight end, could we play more 12? Absolutely, we could play more 12. We're player centric. We're gonna put our best guys out there. We're gonna see what matchups we can exploit, and we're gonna do that on a week-to-week basis. So. I like playing in 11. I believe in it. I think there's some value in really majoring in a personnel group, but that doesn't mean we can't adjust off of that and modify what we do based on who we have.
What do you think receivers, as they've come in, I know there's a really good draft class, but it seems like over the last few years there's been a ton of really good draft classes. Why do you think the quality of receiver that's been available in the draft has been so good, and why have they been ready to play early?
I think the passing game probably in general just over the last 10, 15 years has blossomed in the lower levels of football, and so these guys are getting better instruction and they're getting more opportunities to go run routes and catch passes, and quarterback play I would say probably at those lower levels has improved as well. And so that's only going to now push that talent upward, and you're going to end up with more talented guys who are running fast, jumping high, and making plays on the ball. There's a lot of talent there. There has been in recent years. You could say the same for this class as well. So, we're excited to get to know some of those guys.